I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or you are live on Roku TV. Thanks to the fine folks over at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Monday, sir.
Happy Monday to you. Interesting weekend in sports. You could say an interesting weekend in the world in general. There's some things you can't unsee. But I will say shout out to Scarlett Johansson. Well done. Well done.
Listen, I don't think any of us had naked John Cena on our bingo card this weekend. I'm just saying.
We did not, and he shows up. And it's obviously it's a bit, but Cena's really good at stuff like that. He's really good at stuff like that. I enjoy it. He's a funny guy.
Which is funny because for any of you out there who watched, and I'm going to open myself up to judgment here, Mo. Feel free to take shots. Any of you who watched Total Bellas, if you saw John Cena on that TV show when he was dating Nikki Bella, he seems awkward in real life. He seems very rigid and uptight in real life. But when it comes to business, Mo, business is business. And Cena will do anything if he thinks it's for good business. So it's just so funny to see how in real life he has rules and he has structure and, he's kind of soft-spoken. And then when it comes time to business, he has no issue going out there buck naked if that's what business calls for.
The lights come on and he's a different person. He's able to just jump into a character just like that. I think it's interesting. But you know what? Think about this. There are some of the greatest comedians ever who are hilariously funny in their stand-up and the things that they do. But you find out in their private lives, they're very serious. They're very quiet, very withdrawn. So maybe that's just one of those kind of things that when the lights come on, they shine. And then in their private lives, they take it down a notch.
Well, I didn't talk to you about this before the show. I hope that you are going to go in the same direction that I am going to go. I'm going to ask you a question. We'll see where you end up. Who do you think is the most difficult superstar to play with in the NBA today?
Well, there's two, but I would say when you look at the overall scope, it's easier. It would be Luka.
Thank you. That's exactly where I was hoping you would go with that. So that makes my next question much more manageable, which is Luka and the Dallas Mavericks ever going to win a title with the way Luka is playing currently? Because let's give Luka credit where credit is due. He's a very gifted scorer. He's also very gifted when it comes to distributing the basketball. But the reason that is because 99.9% of the offense flows through Luka when Luka is on the floor. It's very easy, Mo, to have great numbers when you are the one taking all the shots or you are the one making the last pass before the shot is taken. If that's what you do, you are going to score a lot of points and you are going to get a lot of assists because literally everything is flowing through you. Now, let's not pretend that Luka doesn't have another person on the team. He has a number two. He has Kyrie Irving. And we have said this many times on this show, say what you want about Kyrie, but Kyrie as a number two is pretty good in his career. And he has historically been pretty good in his career as a number two. Kyrie as a number one, different story. But that's not the Kyrie we're talking about. We're talking about Kyrie being the Robin to somebody else's Batman. Unfortunately, this particular Batman seems to want to keep Robin in the Batcave.
Yeah, this Batman kind of wants Robin to go with the Teen Titans. He doesn't really want a Robin. And when you look at the Dallas Mavericks offense, there's Luka. Kyrie still manages to get around 23, 24 points a game, but there's a huge gap between those two and then everybody else. And look, I in no means am I saying that Luka's not a great player. He's a great talent. He's fun to watch at times, but it's funny because it seems like the league and some fans, you have favorites. The same things that we killed James Harden for, Luka's doing the same thing. It's the same thing. He's a ball dominant player who puts up huge numbers. Look, we forget that James Harden, I think he's had 4 or 5 seasons with 30 points and like 10 assists. We don't talk about that because in the end, it never resulted in titles or wins, big wins in the playoffs. I don't think Luka I'm not saying he can't be your best player, but if he doesn't change his style of play, your ceiling in terms of winning, there is a ceiling and it's nowhere near the finals. Like I thought his biggest claim to fame was when he upset Phoenix a couple years ago to get to the conference finals. And that was big. That was impressive. But I don't see this style of play being conducive to winning a title. It's yet to do that since I've been watching basketball. I haven't seen it done. There are some ball dominant players who do it differently. LeBron is a different kind of thing because he does move the ball around. The ball does circulate throughout the offense. Everybody does touch the ball. That's completely different from what Luka does, where it's Luka 99.9% of the time, and then everybody eats off of what he does. And I just don't think that's a winning formula.
And the biggest difference between LeBron and Luka right away is the fact that people want to play with LeBron. Why? Because if you have any sort of valuable skill set on a basketball court, LeBron will put you in a position to utilize whatever that skill set is. Luka, on the other hand, I mean, you can have a skill set. He might find you. He may not find. Depends on how he's feeling. If he's feeling it, he's not really passing the ball. So that's the biggest difference right there is LeBron's going to get people involved in the game. Luka is going to get himself involved in the game, and then we'll kind of go from there. Mo, I know Dallas Maverick fans this morning don't want to hear this, but let's look at this objectively. Name another team with one ball-dominant superstar that people did not like playing with because of their playing style that was not a bring people together kind of player that won a championship. Name one.
That player doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And that's the issue.
That's the issue. You can be and LeBron is the perfect example. LeBron is ball dominant. And there are some people you can't put LeBron with because if someone else needs to have the ball in their hands consistently to be effective, putting them with LeBron James is not the best option because LeBron is ball dominant. But when you put great shooters around LeBron and they're best when they have space and they have space to shoot, that's great. That works perfectly with LeBron. So to look at Luka and say, well, you know, Kyrie he's doing okay, but he's not the best fit. Or if we just get this guy in here, or if you've had that guy in there and you've had that guy in there and you've tried that guy in there and none of it's worked. And the common factor, Mo, in all of this has been Luka. And everyone who has walked away, some are more vocal than others, but they've all kind of had the when it comes to playing with Luka. So if he refuses to change his game going forward, and this is going to be the Luka that we are going to see, he is going to continue to score a lot of points. He is going to continue to rack up stats, and they are going to continue to be a mid to low seed in the conference, and they are going to continue to have a ceiling of, probably the second round in the playoffs.
Right. And look, there's people who already say Luka's the greatest Dallas Maverick of all time. And if you look at his numbers and the start of his career, I can't argue with those numbers. But I think that would make Dirk the player that he was is that Dirk was anything but ball dominant. The ball moved around Dirk. And Dirk was he was a rare big man who moved well off the ball and made a living not just in the post but on the outside with his range, his shooting. Like the ball flowed when you played with Dirk. I'm sure Mavs fans are where Luka he can do the Luka needs more help. The problem with that mindset is if you added another star and you had Luka, Kyrie, and the other star, the way Luka plays, I would give it to 25 games into the season where that other star would be like, I want out. I want out. You know what I mean? I came here averaging about 20 a game, playing with this guy. I'm about 12 a game. I'm not old. I'm not washed. The ball just sticks. Luka is a great player, but it's not easy to play with him. And don't forget, he does not impact the game in a positive way on the defensive end. He just doesn't. And I know the narrative was he's being more competitive defensively. No, he's not. He's not. He's not. If he is, then he's just a really, really bad defender. So everything he does, the benefit is what he does offensively. And I know Mavs fans are like, you're hating. This is Luka's MVP year. Look, statistically, I have no problem with him being in the MVP candidate. But when you look at the Mavs record, I'm gonna go with guys like Joker. I know Tatum, best player on the best team. My problem with that is it seems like Boston has lost more of the big games versus the bigger name teams than most MVP candidates. So to me, until otherwise, I think the Joker's still the best player in the league. I think the Joker's on the verge of winning another regular season MVP. And I think the distance between the Joker and Luka, it's a canyon. It's not close.
And but let's not forget, you put another star on the Mavericks. Not only does that other star want to leave halfway through the season, Kyrie's going to want to leave halfway through the season because Kyrie's 24 points a game right now is going to go down to about 14 or 15 points a game because Luka's not giving up his. So if Luka's not giving up his and you're bringing in a third piece that's going to want some, well, it ain't coming from Luka. So it's coming from Kyrie and it's coming from the bench production. Those are the guys who are going to be giving up theirs because Luka's not going to. And that's another reason why a big three or a third star isn't going to work because Kyrie's happy right now. He's got his 20, 24, 26 a night, 28 when he has a big night, and he's doing his thing. And his numbers look great. You bring in a third person, Kyrie's numbers are going to dip. And Kyrie's not going to be happy because he's not going to be getting the looks or the touches. Luka isn't going to give anything up. And until he does, this is what you are going to see. Great numbers, constantly in the MVP conversation because of his numbers, and consistent first and second round playoff exits.
There's a reason why
if that's what you like, Dallas, I mean, that's what you like.
Right. If there's a reason why some of the top free agents, because every year Mark Cuban he's courting them, right? And they never go there. They never go there because he's not an easy guy to play with. And let's be honest, players have team goals. They also have individual goals. And if a guy knows if I go play with Luka, I'm going to be diminished in some kind of way, they're not going to play with him. It's just a given. They're not going to play with him. So the Mavs have to settle for like second tier stars at best. And I'm not talking about Kyrie in that way. I'm just saying, think about this. Remember, they put out a lot in a trade to get Porzingis a couple of years ago. And that didn't work. And a lot of people thought it was Porzingis' fault. It wasn't Porzingis' fault. It was on Luka to make that work because he's the one with the ball in his hand all the time. And it didn't work because they didn't utilize Porzingis and his skill set to the best of their ability. They didn't. They couldn't. It's a difficult challenge. I'll go you a step further than this. Their current coach, I have nothing against Jason Kidd. I think Luka needs a coach who has a little bit more of authority and can come to him and go, I need you to find different ways to make everybody else better because I know you can get your numbers whenever you need to. Jason Kidd's not going to do that. He's not that guy.
And let's not shade it. Kyrie Irving is there because not by luck, but almost by default. Happenstance. I mean, he didn't really have a lot of other options. There weren't a lot of teams lining up that wanted him to be on their team because of the history of Kyrie with other teams in this league. So you get Kyrie there. He is successful to a certain degree with Luka, but it's not like you courted Kyrie and 6 teams wanted him and he chose you. We didn't even think Kyrie was going to want to be there after the half a season he was there, or the quarter of a season that he was there.
No.
So
and I'm not sure he really wants to be there, Chris.
Right.
I think he's there because the demand for him, even with all his talent, not high.
No,
not high, because he's too enigmatic of a person. A lot of people don't want to deal with. Like, sadly, the one team that was constantly interested in him was my team, the Lakers. And I don't know why we do that. We sign up for the drama, but we were interested in him. Kyrie Irving, on talent alone, if you just said the most talented players in basketball, he's one of the top 5 talents in the NBA. But talent alone is not why you bring somebody to your team. He's a lot, but he's a Maverick, Chris, because what other option did he have? If he wasn't going to be a Maverick, then he was going to have to go to a bottom feeder team like the Hornets or the Wizards, and he definitely didn't want to do that. So he's where he is because he didn't have a lot of options. I don't think he loves playing with Luka. I just don't think he had a lot of choices.
Right. All right, let's get JG in here this morning. We got some Major League Baseball stuff to talk about. I'm going to press the JG button. And when I press the JG button, JG pops up on the screen. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Hey, good morning, guys. How are y'all doing?
Morning, JG.
JG, before we get into the actual baseball news, I saw an interesting argument on Bleacher Report, I believe it was, that I wanted to run by you. The premise was, hey, we saw Major League Baseball do the Field of Dreams thing, right? And that was wildly successful. Why not try to take the same thing we did with the Field of Dreams, bottle that up, and bring that over to where the original Sandlot game took place from the movie The Sandlot? Now, obviously, this would require a lot of money on the part of Major League Baseball. For those of you who do not know, The Sandlot is a real field. It does exist, but it is not much more currently right now than that. It is a lot. They would have to do a lot to make it baseball ready. But JG, do you think there could be money to be made there after seeing the Field of Dreams game and how that was presented by Major League Baseball? And many thought that was a rousing success. And then looking at the Sandlot and the movie itself being as iconic as it is and everything they could do with that, do you think there is potential if Major League Baseball decides to recreate the Field of Dreams game with some other baseball backdrop, that there is an opportunity there? Or do you think it's a situation of you hit it out of the park with one, let's not be doing ridiculous things to try to replicate that, because baseball doesn't always have the best track record when it comes to these things?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea, and I would be all for it if they can make it work. The issue is how much revenue can you come out of this? And again, I know they didn't make a ton of money as far as stadium wise at the Field of Dreams game, but you're talking about a Sandlot style game. So there's a lot of variables that you're going to have to put together. Is it a Sandlot style field, which the owners are not going to want because you're putting way too much money on these players to go play on a Sandlot style field, and somebody gets hurt in a certain way. That's going to be a big problem. How do you build this field, or how do you build this out to where you can have people come and watch? There's a lot of variables. I think it's a little too gimmicky to kind of say, hey, we can make this work, which Major League Baseball is trying to be gimmicky anyway, and because they're trying to bring new fans in. But here's the thing as well. Here's my next question, because I actually, in a way, in a small sample size, know this question. How many of the younger fan base, which is what Major League Baseball continues to try to get, or they're trying to expand, much of the younger fan base actually knows about the movie Sandlot? And talking to some of the kids who are 18, 19, 20 years old that I coach, not a lot of them actually even watched the movie before.
That's a travesty.
So, believe me, my heart cries. They haven't watched a lot of the baseball movies that we all grew up watching in the really you can say the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s. A lot of these kids have never seen them before, and so do you really gain that new fan base that you're still working to gain if you do something this gimmicky. And I think that's the bigger question. I don't think they're going to be able to get that side of it. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a fantasy idea of Major League Baseball to have, but I don't think it's something that could really work out to do.
JG, it was only a week ago that Joey Votto tweeted that he missed baseball. And then you fast forward a couple of days, and he now has an invite to spring training for a non-roster invitation right now with the Toronto Blue Jays. Is this going to be anything other than a nice gesture? Does he have a legitimate chance of making the squad? Do the Blue Jays need this type of presence in their lineup? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be in a DH role, in a bench role, because, again, you have Vlad Guerrero Jr. there as a first base DH. You have some young guys around this team. But at the same time, that's probably what they're missing is a form of leadership, in Toronto that can really help these young kids really fulfill their potential. And so I think this is a legitimate opportunity for Votto to make the big league club. And it's refreshing to hear a Major League Baseball player say he misses and loves the game of baseball, i.e., shot taking at Anthony Rendon, who, it's just a job. It's just a job for him. Again, you have a lot of guys. That's why I kid at the same time. I do take that shot, really heavy-handed to Rendon, because you have a lot of guys who are like Votto, like myself, who love this game, miss this game, and want to keep playing this game as long as we are able to do so. But no, for Votto, I think this is a legitimate opportunity to make the big league club and be a veteran presence that this team has been missing to put themselves in position to be a division-winning contender. Now you can say, well, what does Votto know about winning a division, playing in Cincinnati for his entire career? But at the same time, he's a professional. He has been in this game for a very long time. He knows what it takes. He's been trying to lead young kids, and he's going to lead he would help provide that spark of leadership that has just been missing from this club to finish the job and be contending for this division. I think this is legit. If he can show that he can be a good bench platoon player, I think there's a chance that Votto could make the big league club and the Blue Jays team this year.
JG, more noise keeps coming up surrounding Juan Soto and the Mets' desire to have Juan Soto when he becomes a free agent after this season. Obviously, when you talk about the New York Mets and their rebuild or their not rebuild, or what next year is going to look like, or what 3 years from now are going to look like, you get 6 different versions of that story simply based on moves they make or don't make. So with this growing rumor and this growing traction that the Mets are going to be heavy players in the Juan Soto sweepstakes when he hits the market after this season, let's say the Mets sign him. The Mets sign Soto. It's a huge contract. They pay all this money for him. Is that the future of that team? Does everything rebuild around Soto? And then what does that look like? Because now you have Soto potentially, but you don't have pitching, really. You don't have a bullpen, really. And maybe you still have Alonso. You have a couple of pieces on the offensive side of the ball. But I feel like it's great to have Soto if you have other things in place. But if you're the Mets, I feel like you're not going to have other things in place going into the season after next. So I don't understand what the desire is to spend all that money on Soto when you could spend the same money on 3 or 4 different things and actually put together a team that could win games, as opposed to a team with an all-star like Soto on it.
Well, you hit the nail on the head as far as building this. How do you build the Mets back up to being a contender? Who's going to pitch in 2025? And that's obviously that's when we're talking about is 2025 after the season when Soto does become a free agent. Who's going to be your pitcher? Could be obviously Severino's on a 1-year deal. You're not expecting him to be back. Quintana's been a failure in the Mets so far. Sean Manaea is on a 1-year deal, I believe. Adrian Hauser, 1-year deal, or is 1-year deal, I believe. Tyler McGill, you're not, again, he's a spot starter, bullpen guy if you have some depth in your rotation. So where's the pitching? Which financially, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, will the Mets have the money to sign pitching if they go after Soto? Because we know, Steve Cohen does not care about finances. He will spend money to make sure that he builds a contending team. But you're correct that there are way more pressing needs that to build this team back to what you need it to be. Now, does Juan Soto improve your lineup? Absolutely, he does. You put him in right field. He's an upgrade, a significant upgrade over Starling Marte. Not disputing that. But Juan Soto doesn't pitch either, though. And that's the problem for the Mets. And that's going to be the problem this year for the New York Mets. It will be very self-evident that they don't have good pitching. They're hoping Luis Severino can rediscover what he has had shown at times, not throughout his career, but just at times to where he can be a serviceable starting pitcher. But he's not he's going to end up having to be a top of the rotation guy for the Mets. That's not who he is. So they're going to be exposed this season as far as lack of quality starting pitching. They're going to have to try to, redo that, at least get 2 starters in 2025 at the top of the rotation. But again, does Soto improve your lineup? Yes, Soto does improve your lineup. But there's just so much more needs that are going to be had. Again, Cohen will spend the money. I understand it's New York and you want the superstars and you want the spotlight and be on you. It's about in New York, it's about who gets the back page on the in the tabloids and in the newspaper. That's what matters most to the front office executives in New York. And that's what Soto will provide. But Soto can only provide you so much to be able to win if you don't have the pitching personnel to.
And JG, isn't it because, yes, the Mets are going to spend money, right? So if you look at the potential free agent market for pitchers after this season, you could potentially look at that and say the Mets could easily sign 3 middle to top of the rotation guys because the pitching market could potentially be that deep. But if you're a free agent pitcher, isn't the risk being the first one who agrees to go to the Mets? Because as a free agent pitcher, even if the Mets give you the money, if you want to win games, if you're the first one to go, isn't the risk, what if no one else comes? What if I'm the only one they land? And now it's me and a bunch of guys who aren't really 2s or 3s. And that's the starting rotation next year. And we're going to be a bad team. Now it's Juan Soto. So great for the offense. I'm an ace. Good for me. There's no one else good in the staff because they couldn't land the 2 and the 3 they were going after. And now we're going to be a garbage team next season. Isn't that the risk the free agents are taking? Because it's not like other sports. And I don't know why. Maybe you can tell me why. It's not like other sports where players are like, hey, the Mets have money. The 3 of us, we're all aces or deemed aces. Let's all figure out our finances. Let's all go to the Mets together. We can literally be 1, 2, 3 on the Mets. They now have 3 aces on their staff. They can figure out the rest on their own. With us, they're good. Plus, they're going to sign Soto. Let's go do this. You don't see that in Major League Baseball. So if you're the first ace to sign the dotted line, isn't there a fear that you might be the only ace to sign the dotted line?
I can't answer that question as to why that's not been the case and why that doesn't really occur in Major League Baseball. The players' union doesn't really care for that. They don't care. You get your money. That's what they tell you. They absolutely tell you again. You have players when they take less money, they get a phone call the next day from the players' union and say, "You screwed someone else to get out of the most money they can make." I remember, I may have said this to you guys before, but back when Cliff Lee and Gene can remember, can attest this, who watching, Cliff Lee took less money leaving Texas to go back to Philadelphia. He took significantly less money, and the players' union was absolutely livid at Cliff Lee for doing so because they know you shrunk them. You shrunk the market for the top available pitchers to make the most money. They don't like that. Usually unions will, hey, do you know what you did type of thing. The NBA and the NFL players union doesn't really even say much at times. the Major League Baseball Players Union will absolutely make a phone call to you if you take significantly less. I'm not talking about $10 million less than what the market value is expected to be. If you take 30, 40, 50 million less than what you were expected by choice, they're making a phone call to you immediately and saying, well, why? Why are you doing this? And Cliffley wanted to go home. He wanted to be able to be where he was comfortable. His wife was comfortable, loved being in Philadelphia. And the union didn't care. You need to take more money. That's what we care about. So that's why you don't see a lot of players say, hey, let's take less money to form a group together to go and be a starting pitcher, a trio of pitchers in the rotation to help elevate a team to the highest point. The Players Union puts that a stop to that and just say, no, go get your money. You could. I'm looking at the potential starting pitchers, and there's a lot. So I mean, like if you're the Mets and you're going to have money, you're going to overspend, and that's where I go back to it. When you can look at it, you can make a move to go get Corbin Burns if you're the Mets, and then be able to say, okay, we have a 30-year-old starting pitcher. Let's go get someone a little bit, maybe a little bit older, 35, 36 years old. You can maybe make a move for Alex Cobb. You can then go get someone a little bit more of a 3 kind of guy, Jordan Lyles maybe. You can mix and match, but you're gonna have to overpay to do it. And that's what Steve Cohen will do. We know that he's not gonna be afraid to overpay if he has to. So that's what the Mets are gonna end up doing to get pitching in 2025. Is they're gonna make a big push for one of the top names, and then they're gonna be overpaying, a number 2 or number 3 to at least fill out their rotation, and then say, all right, we'll throw in a couple guys here in the bottom at the 4 and 5 spot too, sprinkling that from there.
Before we get you out of here, JG, Mookie Betts is moving to shortstop. I saw the press release at the end of last week. It is permanent for now. I have no idea what that means. I don't know how a permanent move can be only for now. But talk to me a little bit about Mookie moving back. Mookie has been all over since he has been a Dodger. He has played infield. He has played outfield. Now he is going back to infield. Obviously, the Dodgers feel there is a need at the shortstop position, and they feel that Mookie is going to be their best option there, given what they have on the team right now. What are your thoughts about Mookie playing shortstop, and do you think this actually is permanent, or is he going to be shuffled around again later on this season?
So the combative, decision of moving Mookie to short for now is the same thing that's being said about Gavin Lux moving to second base for now. So they're still committed to Gavin Lux being the future at shortstop for the Dodgers. He's not healthy right now. That's that, and again, using the phrase, for now, right now, he's not healthy. And that was going to be the biggest question mark going forward, is when is Gavin Lux going to be healthy from his ACL injury? It takes time, even in Major League Baseball. Again, you're talking about a sport like we put emphasis on ACL injuries in the NFL all the time, but the NFL, you play a game once a week. And you can rest, and you can sit, and you can, when they get clear to play, they'll get, a day off on Wednesday, maybe a light day on Thursday. They're not taking as much running, pounding throughout the week leading up to them being able to play on Sunday. MLB, you're playing every day. You're running every day. You're moving every day. The swelling is taking place every day in that knee. You got to make sure you can combat that as much as possible. So, and that's why we saw, I said this about, Ronald Acuna. It took Acuna an entire season to get healthy for the next season for 2020 for 2023, when tore his ACL in 21, came back for 2022, and then he was 2023. He was finally fully healthy. So it was another full season before we finally saw the real Ronald Acuna. I think it's going to be the same thing for Gavin Lux. It's going to take some time for him to get back to being fully healthy. So you move him away from shortstop. You take the pressure away from him in doing so. You platoon him at second base. And you find a way to make sure that your future at shortstop is taken care of and secured. And so when that happens, once next year in 2025, we'll probably hear Dave Roberts go, okay, Gavin Lux going back to shortstop. Mookie's probably going to go back to second base, maybe go back to the outfield, and we go from there with that. But Gavin Lux is still the future of the position at shortstop for the LA Dodgers. But for now, Mookie Betts is the starting shortstop of 2024 LA Dodgers.
JG, a pleasure as always, sir. We'll see you
Appreciate you,
tomorrow
JG.
morning.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Mo, to say that it has been an eventful couple of days in the NFL, that would be an understatement, sir.
A big time understatement. It's interesting. I want to know what all those analysts who had been saying over the last couple of weeks. I don't even know if Russ gonna be in the league anymore. I don't even know that guy's gonna get a job. He's probably not gonna be in the league. And
Go back up Aaron Rodgers, you bum.
Right. That was his best option. Like, Aaron, teach me what you know. Even though we won the same amount of Super Bowls, but teach me what you know.
Mo, we're going to go through it right now. We got a quick hit it. Everything that's happened up to this point in the free agent world. We'll make some pit stops along the way to break some things down as we see fit. Let's start. Carolina Panthers re-signed cornerback Troy Hill. The Detroit Lions re-signed offensive guard Graham Glasgow. The Jaguars signed center Mitch Morse. This was big, Buffalo. You release Mitch Morse as a salary cap dump. You need to free up space. The thought process, Mo, in Buffalo was it's fine. Everything is fine. These guys are going to come back on smaller deals. Right. Morris was a big part of their offensive line the last 3 or 4 seasons. And Mo, he didn't come back. And that is what happens when you start releasing these veteran players or these players who have a big cap number. They don't all come back, Mo, because, hey, this is crazy. They want money. They want to get paid while they're healthy and productive and in the prime of their careers. Oh, and by the way, Mo, when you're good, other teams come and offer you more money when you get released because they say, hey, you're good. Come play for us. And that's exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars did with Mitch Morse. So now, Mo, Buffalo needs to fill their center position. And they may have thought he was going to come back. And he said, I'm sorry. I got more money over here.
And I don't blame him. He should feel some type of way. Like, if you let me go, and then you go, but Mitch will be back. And Jacksonville goes, Mitch, we've got money for you.
Right.
He's a Jacksonville Jaguar.
The Indianapolis Colts extend linebacker Zaire Franklin, avoiding free agency there. Let's get to our first big move of the morning. The Pittsburgh Steelers signed quarterback Russell Wilson. It is a 1-year, $1.2. That's right. Hey, credit to Mike Tannenbaum. You got it right, Mikey. He did sign a $1 million contract, $1.2 million, 1-year deal to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, by the way, the Denver Broncos are going to kick in 37.9 large to cover the rest of that deal. Thank you for that one, Denver. It is definitely a 1-year prove-it deal for Russell Wilson.
That's fair.
He is going to have an opportunity to be the starting quarterback for this franchise, a franchise mode that won 10 games with subpar quarterback play last year from 3 different quarterbacks. I think this is a great move for Russ. I think he is going to have every opportunity to prove he deserves to play beyond this 1-year deal. He is going to be given every chance to show that he is not cooked, that he is not washed, that the Denver situation was a little fluky. 1 year with Nat Hackett, another year with a head coach who clearly did not like Russell Wilson or want Russell Wilson as his starting quarterback. So I think he is going to be really set up for success with Pittsburgh. And Mo, I'll tell you right now, if they make the playoffs, I think they're going to extend him for another couple of years, and you're going to see a 3 or 4 year run with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, I think they're going to draft the future in there somewhere. And I think maybe by the end of year 3 or midway through year 4, you'll see that transition. But if he gets them to the playoffs year 1, I think we're going to see a couple more years of Russell Wilson. He's going to finish his career in Pittsburgh.
I'm with you 100%. I actually think I was thinking about this because somebody was giving me this conversation about when a quarterback is cooked, they're cooked, Mo, they're done. And I'm like, that's not true. I remember Kurt Warner being done with the Rams. The Rams were so confident that they thought Mark Bulger's the guy. He had a couple of big seasons. We're moving on from Kurt. Kurt Warner goes to the Giants, and he's horrible with the Giants.
Cooked with the Giants. He is cooked with the Giants.
He looks done with the Giants, like washed. And guess what? He goes to the Cardinals and he looks like Kurt Warner again. And he not only makes them relevant, he takes them to the Super Bowl. They lose in one of the better Super Bowls in Super Bowl history. But my point is, could Russ do that? Absolutely. The idea that he's done, I don't think he's done. I think he gets every opportunity, like you said, with these Steelers. They've got a good defense. They do have more. I would say if you look at their talent offensively versus Denver's talent, it's an upgrade. It's a clear upgrade. Whatever you think of Jerry Jeudy, he's not better than any of the receivers on Pittsburgh.
He's just a guy.
Well, you know what? He might have said it in a harsh way, but Steve Smith was not wrong.
Also, another quarterback that Arizona revived, Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer went to Arizona, and we thought he was cooked, and he not the same
really
success
well
as Kurt Warner,
but he played well.
Yeah,
agreed.
The Patriots re-signed wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, 3 years, $33 million. Someone's got to catch passes in New England, right?
And he's a good player. Like, that's what you can honestly say. Kendrick Bourne is a good player on a really good team, though. He's probably a pretty good 2, but he's really more like a 3. But so I don't think it's a bad pickup, but it's not something that goes, because you don't even know what their quarterback is. Who's their quarterback?
Correct.
You have Kendrick Bourne coming back, so that's fine. But who's throwing Kendrick Bourne the football?
Hey, we know who's not throwing him the football, and we'll get to that when it pops up on my list over here. But next on my list is the Baker train pulling into the bank.
Yeah.
3 years, $100 million for
Congrats.
Baker Mayfield. You can sit here, if you are not a Baker Mayfield fan, you can say whatever you want this morning, but I will just say this: you were wrong. The Cleveland Browns never should have gotten rid of Baker Mayfield. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 100% correct in extending Baker Mayfield. And Mo, good for Baker, because he was washed when he left Cleveland. He was done. People really thought it was over when he left Carolina, and it wasn't successful there. By the way, how the hell was it going to be successful there? Look at that organization. And then he goes to he goes to LA with the Rams, wins his first start after being there for half a day. No practice, doesn't even know guys' names. Goes out there and wins a Thursday night game or a Monday night game or something like that. And then, he just casually comes and replaces Tom Brady with the Buccaneers and takes them to a division and a playoff game and a playoff win. So, if I'm Tampa Bay, I don't want the quarterback carousel to continue. I don't want another new quarterback who has to learn another new system. I don't want that. And we knew when Mike Evans signed for 2 years, wasn't that the indication that Baker was coming back?
Absolutely.
And if you look at Baker's deal, it's basically, it is a 3-year deal, but it's basically 3 one-year deals. It's 1 year guaranteed $30 million, I believe is what the number is. And then if you want to go 2 years on him, you're going to pay him $60 million over 2 years. And then there's an option for $40 million for year 3, which, by the way, lines up with Mike Evans. So you roll with Baker for a couple of seasons. If it didn't work and Evans isn't coming back, Baker's not coming back either. You don't bring him back. It's a 2-year deal. He's out of here. If you make the playoffs the next 2 years, you win division titles the next 2 years, Evans signs another 2-year deal. Guess who's making $40 million year 3? Baker, baby.
100. Look, the interesting thing about this is when you look at what Baker's done with Godwin, with Mike Evans, and how he developed chemistry with them so quick. Godwin later on the back end, but Evans immediately. It's funny because I'm looking at Cleveland and I'm like, they gave up on him really quick. But looking at where things are now, they'd kill to have Baker Mayfield right now.
100%.
Like Deshaun Watson hasn't played as well as Baker Mayfield, right? That's the crazy part. So it sometimes it's about if the organization not only wants you, but they invest in you. And I don't think Cleveland fully invested in Baker Mayfield.
Hey, but they got Jerry Jeudy now, so it's all sunshine for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Jerry
there
Judy's there.
Well, yeah, because now you have a number 3 receiver to go with your number 1 receiver. So yeah, it's good.
The Bears signed Kevin Byard. He was released. Well, he wasn't re-signed by Philly, coming over from Tennessee. A little bit of a disappointment, I thought Byard was in Philly. I don't think he really fit the system the way they thought he was going to fit the system. But Mo, the Bears continue to do the 85 Bears mentality. I mean, they just gave all that money to their corner. They're paying a crap ton of money to their linebacker core. Now they're bringing in more people on the back end on the defense. Listen, I respect defense. I think you need to have a good defense in this league. But man, the Bears spend a lot of money on defense. And then I look over on the offensive side of the football, and I'm like, okay. And maybe they have a plan. Maybe they know what's going on with Fields and where he's going. Maybe they know they're drafting Caleb Williams and they're going to have some money to play around with because they're going to have a rookie. So maybe they know things. I know that we don't know what's happening with the quarterback situation. I know that they don't have, a name running back over there. We're all like, hey, that's a guy. Yeah, they have a nice receiver. But that's about it. The tight end's decent. What about the O-line? What's happening with the O-line? There's a lot of question marks on the offensive side, and we keep pouring money into the defensive side like it's 1985, and I don't know what the Bears are doing, Mo.
Well, it's not 1985, and you don't have Walter Payton in the backfield, so that's problematic. But I have to believe you're right. I think you gave the right answer, partner. They have to be moving Fields and assume that we're going to get Caleb Williams. He's going to be on that rookie deal. We're going to have some money to go out and do something with this offensive line and build the rest of the roster out with the picks that we get. That has to be the plan, because right now it looks like you said, they're pouring all this money into the defense, but there's no playmakers on the offense. And we don't know who your quarterback is, but I have to assume it's not going to be Fields.
Well, if they're going to trade Justin Fields, they need to get on that, because rumor this morning is Atlanta is heavily considering free agent quarterback Kirk Cousins. Russell Wilson has already went to Pittsburgh. The two teams that were most interested in Justin Fields were the Falcons and the Steelers. The Steelers have their quarterback next season. The Falcons are already looking at other options, apparently. This comes on the heels of last week where they were pushing to get a deal done. Obviously, a deal has not gotten done yet. And now they're talking Kirk Cousins. We don't know what the Bears are saying. Maybe the Bears aren't trading Justin Fields, and that's the indication that they're getting. I don't know. But the Falcons seem to be moving on and looking at potential plan B or plan 1A options if it's not going to be Justin Fields. So, Mo, once you take the Steelers out of the equation, and if the Falcons end up signing Kirk Cousins, and it looks like they're willing to give him some money that maybe Minnesota isn't, well, now what's left for Justin Fields? And you see it in the chat right here. Is it going to be the Raiders? Mo, if it's going to be the Raiders, you're not getting a haul for Justin Fields. You're not getting what you think he's worth. You're probably not even getting what the market thinks he's worth. Why? Because there's no more competition out there.
Right.
At least before, it was like, oh, Pittsburgh wants him. Atlanta wants him. Oh, the Raiders might want him. Give me your best offer, baby. Well, now it's like the Raiders are going to sit here and be like, do you even have a plan B? Is there even anyone else out there that wants him to be their starting quarterback? Because we don't think there is. So here's what we think is fair. Let us know when you accept.
Right.
Otherwise, cut him. Because if you're going to draft Caleb Williams, you're not going to pay Justin. So at that point, what do you do?
You know what, partner? Maybe we go back to one of the conversations that we've had the last couple of weeks where we said, or maybe they do the smart thing and you manipulate that number 1 pick into a bunch of picks and build out your roster. Maybe you do that. Maybe that, I don't know if it's settling, but maybe you do that. Maybe you realize, I don't know, this Caleb Williams guy, he seems like beyond high maintenance already. Like coming in, he's beyond high maintenance. And we've had this conversation about there's the known and what you can build off the known. And we don't know what Caleb Williams could be. We have no idea. You can scout somebody to death and go, there's no question he's elite. And we've heard that before. And I've seen guys end up being bust or at best being journeyman. It happens. You never know. Your mental needs to line up with your physical. And I don't know what his mental is. So if I'm the Bears, my motto all along was keep Fields, manipulate that pick, and build out your roster. You can do that. But if they don't want him, like you said, there's no market now. The market's gone, and the Raiders know the market's gone. So now when people are like, well, you can get a 2 for him or something like, now the Raiders are like, we were thinking maybe a 3. You know what I mean? Like, we're thinking a 3. Because where are you going to go? We're thinking a 3. Are the Broncos going to step in and go, we got a 2, we got a 3? Like I don't know. But time's ticking, and we're getting at the red line, and there's no competition out there. So I really wish the Bears would make a decision right now, because going forward, either you're all in on Fields, or you got to move him and get some kind of value to set up drafting Caleb Williams.
And Mo, I hope, and I'm not saying that this is a situation, but I hope this isn't a situation where the market dictates now what the Bears do with Fields. I hope it's not a situation where they wanted to trade him and they were going to trade him, and now they're like, oh, the market's not there for that. We don't know if we can pull that off. Let's just keep him now and trade the pick. I hope they're not going to be forced into a situation they didn't want to be in because they didn't pull the trigger fast enough with moving Fields. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. A lot of possibilities are still out there. But if Kirk Cousins signs in Atlanta, man, things just got weird for the Bears and Justin Fields.
But what are your thoughts on that, Kurt to Atlanta? Like, I get it. It's an upgrade, no doubt. But do you think Kurt, at this stage of his career, it feels more like a short-sighted move? Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, how long is Kurt going to be there to be their quarterback? I guess that's what I'm saying.
A few years. I mean, if you're Atlanta, yeah, if you're Atlanta, you look at it and you say, we have a lot of talent. Cousins is an upgrade. This doesn't open up a championship window. This opens up a division-winning playoff window for probably the next 3 years. And who knows? Maybe we catch fire one of those years and we go on a run and we find ourselves in an NFC championship game or in a Super Bowl. Because, Mo, I was looking this morning at the MVP odds next season, and I think there's 6 guys that are pretty much considered favorites, and they're all quarterbacks from the AFC. There is nothing on the NFC side of the ledger. Do not sit here this morning, Green Bay Packer fanboys, and tell me Jordan Love, because I don't want to hear that garbage, because he is not standing in the way of anything. He is in the mix, sure, because the mix is all mediocre quarterbacks coming out of the NFC. Who is the best quarterback in the NFC going into next season? Is it Stafford? Am I missing someone?
I'm going to say...
Is it Dak?
Stafford. Well, so Dak had better numbers than Stafford, but you asked me who's the better quarterback. I still think it's Stafford.
Healthy Stafford is better than a healthy Dak.
From start to finish, Stafford's better than Dak.
All right, so but that's your competition. Those are the big names you have to go through. Can't win on the road. Dak Prescott, banged up constantly. Matthew Stafford. Those are the big names you have to go through. I mean, like my chances.
Jalen Hurts is there. Jalen Hurts is in a mix somewhere, right? You have to put Jalen Hurts in there as well. I mean, if Philly
figures it out and they bounce back, Jalen Hurts could be the one. He could be the top quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is. And Mo, if that's the case, if Jalen Hurts separates himself, he's got to play somebody in the NFC title game, and it could be any of them. So like the conversation is still wide open for making it to the NFC title game.
This is true. It's wide open because now we're talking about not just Stafford, but we're looking at Goff and guys of that nature. So you're right.
Yeah, just saying. And it's no slight on the Niners and Brock Purdy either, but you don't look at Brock Purdy and you're like, oh, Patrick Mahomes. You don't. Not when you got Mahomes, you got Burrow, you got Herbert with Harbaugh, you got Josh Allen. Like, look at all the names you got. Rodgers is going to be healthy. you're like 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks deep in the AFC before you start saying, and there's a little drop off. Lamar is over there.
Right.
In the NFC, you're like, well, if the Eagles bounce back,
There's
Hurts
a lot
could
of
be
things.
Hurts
Sure.
could be one.
Look, I know Brock doesn't have a thunderbolt for an arm, but I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, and I would say that he seems to be one of those guys, Chris, that he's still just getting better. So I don't.
He is.
He might get that much better this coming season as well.
Where would Brock be in the AFC? Just
That's-
as a comparison.
Well, I mean, like you said, a lot of those guys you named would be ahead of him, right? Right out the box.
So he'd probably be like 5th or 6th.
Maybe 6, somewhere in there,
Okay.
right? And look, again, we have a small sample size to judge him off of compared to what a lot of those guys have already done. I would say this
isn't bad when you look at who you're putting him with.
Right.
Like 6th isn't bad in the AFC. There's literally 8 or 9 quarterbacks in the AFC. If they're your quarterback, you think you're confident you're going to the AFC title game next year. The Bills are confident. The Bengals are confident. The Chiefs, the Ravens, all these teams are confident, Mo. The Chargers are confident. So it's not a bad thing if he's 5th or 6th. But at the same time, there just isn't that level of talent in the NFC.
There's not, because think about this. We didn't even mention Trevor Lawrence.
Where
would Trevor Lawrence be in the NFC?
Right. He'd be top 3 easily top 3. I think. I mean, if you throw him over there and you said that the 3 best quarterbacks are going to be Hurts, Purdy, and Lawrence, okay, I have no issue with that. That very well could be. And you're going to have Dak and you're going to have Stafford somewhere in the top 5. I have no issue with that. I don't think anyone's going to be super upset about it. But if you say Lawrence is a top 4 quarterback in the AFC, he's not.
He's not.
He isn't.
Sunshine is not there yet. He's not there yet.
The Raiders re-signed center Andre James. The Texans signed defensive tackle. I can't say his name, but his last name is Fatukasa. Love me some of that. The Jets signed cornerback Isaiah Oliver from the 49ers. The Patriots trade Mac Jones to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We're just talking about them.
Oh, good for you, Mac Jones. Good for you to get out of there.
And I honestly think that's a good landing spot for him. Look, I'm sure he still aspires to be a starting quarterback, but I think right now it makes him one of the better backup quarterbacks. And I don't know if that's going to be his lot in his NFL life. I'm sure he's going to get another opportunity, but we can both agree he did need to change the scenery.
The Chiefs re-signed Chris Jones. Big move for them. The Texans re-signed cornerback Desmond King II. That's valuable for their secondary. Like we said earlier, the Browns trade for the Broncos Jerry Jeudy. The Eagles re-signed Brandon Graham. The Bengals re-signed Cody Ford. The Dolphins re-signed their punter. Yay. The Patriots re-signed Hunter Henry at tight end. And I think that is going to cover... Oh, the Broncos keep Tim Patrick. That's good for them. We talked last week about the Bears extending Jalen Johnson. The Saints are keeping the Honey Badger. That's important for them. Jonnu Smith joining the Dolphins as a tight end, which is great because they have 0 production out of their tight end position. And that wraps up all of the major signings thus far, Mo. But I'm telling you right now, if Kirk goes to Atlanta, things are getting shooken up when it comes to the Bears.
That's going to be a fun division because suddenly, even though we're on the Baker train, doesn't Kirk become by de facto maybe the best quarterback in that division?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great showing on Monday, sir. Close us out.
Thank you guys for everybody in the chat. We appreciate your support. Thank you for everybody who's watching Chris and I live. You've already listened to us. Give us a like, a sub, a follow. We appreciate you. Check out all the things that we have to offer for you at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire. Check us out.
Hey, if you don't already follow us on TikTok, make sure you do that. We're 3 followers away from 1,100 followers, so we'd love to get that today. So if you don't follow us, come follow us. Get us over the 1,100 plateau. And make sure that you are here tomorrow morning with us as we continue to break down everything that's happening in the NFL when it comes to free agency. It's the tampering window. So we'll discuss all of those tampering type things, all of that and more. It's the morning show here on Wire to Wire Network.